Hello and welcome to the Flow Sub Only podcast. This is Hayden Martz. I'm here with Ben. How are you doing today, Ben?
Good. Coming back from a vacation, feeling all energized and ready to go.
I mean, we were talking earlier. It doesn't sound like it was truly a vacation, but I'll give it to you.
I'm a workaholic. I think step one is admitting it. So
That's fair. So today I want to talk with you about injuries, a little bit of injury prevention, getting through injuries kind of both from the physical side and the mental side, and then sort of like long-term prevention, stuff like that. I figure with our credentials as black belts that although we aren't physicians, we are experts at injury.
Yeah, witnessing getting injured, hopefully not injuring other people, but it's a sport that combats one another. So there's,
for sure.
It's almost inevitable to get injured and accidentally injure somebody else. And if you're a white belt just starting, don't let this discourage you. Maybe tune off now.
Last episode was for you white belts. This episode is for the grizzled veterans who have at least one perpetual injury.
Yeah, somebody always has somebody. It's so funny. If you're over a brown belt, I feel like you have something that's always bothering you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like Alexi has like his shoulder from like one's stacked differently because of an injury from a motorcycle or a car crash. I can't remember, a long time ago.
Yeah, and not all these injuries that we're going to talk about, like that could have happened outside of jiu-jitsu, just in life. We're just going to talk about what the recovery process should be like, and what and this is just our opinion. You can certainly do anything you like, but we just want to.
If you're a medical professional, please correct us in the comments.
Right? Yeah, exactly. We're not giving medical advice. We're more talking mindset and specifically towards jiu-jitsu. So, first thing, let's talk prevention. And when I say prevention, I don't want to lead anyone to believe that if you do these things, then all of a sudden magically you'll never get injured. And I don't want to pretend like there's people who do jiu-jitsu who have never been injured.
Right.
I think that it's important to understand that accidents happen, and this is a physical sport, and you will at some point get at least a small injury. Maybe a sore elbow or a sore knee or shoulder, something, anything. But how you go about training on a regular basis and what your goals, what you want to accomplish in training, definitely steer your level of exposure to injury risk.
Yeah. I usually tend to, any prevention I tend to have in two categories. It's on and off the mat. And there's multiple pillars in each of those categories.
Yes. So let's dive in first on the mat. I'm gonna just go with one thing here. First of all, is making sure that you're properly warmed up and properly stretched out as far as ready to train, and you're not coming in cold.
You can get away with that a little bit before you're 25, 30, but you still shouldn't. But you can get away with it.
Yes.
I would say you should look at a lot more of a longevity of your practicing life on the mats. When you're thinking about, should I really warm up? I just kind of want to roll, and rolling is so fun. But at the end of the day, you still need to warm up to prevent not even an injury now, but maybe an injury later on.
Yes.
Repetitive stuff, things like that. Like I was a distance runner, so repetitive stuff is always in the back of my mind.
Yep, 100%. The second thing I would say, and this is diving in probably a little too deep right away, but I think it's important to get this point across, and this might be controversial for some people. It might feel awkward in the split second that it happens, but as a academy owner, I will say that you are not, regardless of who you are, you're not obligated to roll with everyone, and you're not
Yes.
obligated to roll with anyone that you don't want to. Whether it's a
Yep.
size mismatch or a mismatch of personalities or whatever it might be. You should roll with people that you feel in control with and that you feel safe with.
Mhm. That tends to be somebody at a higher belt too, which is a little counterintuitive if you just started the sport to be like, oh, you just got injured at a white or blue belt. Why would it be better to roll with like a black belt? Because I would say they could control themselves better.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's probably something that we should have brought up in our last episode as a tip for white belts is when you first start out, you're going to look around the room and you're going to gravitate towards any live training being with another white belt just because you feel like they're going to be your safest option. And
Mm-hmm.
that really couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
The higher belts are going to be under more control. They're going to be able to control themselves, obviously, and to
Mm-hmm.
a pretty significant extent, they're going to actually be able to control you and keep you safe from yourself.
Yeah. And even if, like, there's even, we have a phrase in our gym, like, if you're an upper belt and you get a little injured and you have to roll light for whatever reason, uh, within the gym, I'm not saying Alexi invented this phrase, but within the gym, there are many phrases that maybe Alexi doesn't know, but they call themselves life rafts because they're women and children first.
I've never heard
But
that. That's amazing.
yeah, we have a purple belt who has some things going on with his spine right now, and he's coming in, rolling light, drilling. He'll roll a little bit with people he trusts. He's getting back into it at the pace that he needs to. But he calls himself a life raft, and I had to question it. This is 6 months ago or something, or no, this was 3 months ago. I questioned him. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, oh, women and children only. And I was like, this is hilarious. It's the best
That's
phrase I've heard in a long
incredible.
time.
I love it. That's so great.
But he realizes, like everybody else, like if you're injured, you can't go 100%. You have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. And, he trusts the higher ranked people and everything else. And then he jokes around. He's like, oh, I roll with the pregnant girls and everything else. And I go, that means they trust you, though. It's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. That's I think I've mentioned this before. That's one of the things that I look at when it comes time to promote somebody to anything above, 3 stripes on a white belt, and especially at
Mm-hmm.
blue belt level, is I would expect you to be competent blue belt level in jiu-jitsu technique, but I would want to make sure before that you're wearing a colored belt from me that you're
Mm-hmm.
safe for any brand new person to come in with white belt,
Yes.
female, kid, small, male adult, or someone that has an injury or anything like that. You should be under
Mm-hmm.
control of yourself and to a certain extent the other person if you're going to be a blue belt.
Yeah. I take it as a badge of honor that, we've had many women in our gym who became pregnant, still went to class and still rolled and everything. And they would come up to me. They're like, "Hey, I trust you. Can we roll later? Like, I trust you." And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a badge of honor to me. I'm like, oh, you trust me to like be in control the whole time and like make sure that you're not. And also teaching. They don't want to stop doing jujitsu and stop learning. So they're going to ask me questions and they're going to make sure that they're doing whatever sweep and pass correctly. But at the same time, I find it a compliment that they're like, no, I trust you. And I
Mm-hmm.
go, oh, like, just a little sweet, a little nice. I like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So now let's talk real quick off the mat.
Mm.
Uh, Prevention of injuries. What are some things that you're thinking?
Um, Usually for me, it's a lot of like what goes into my body. So like that could be supplements, hydration, um, things like that. Food. You don't want to eat. For me, I don't want to eat too close to class time so that my stomach, like all my blood's in my stomach. Like I've had numb toes because I had a sandwich 30 minutes before class,
Mm-hmm.
and all my blood is in my belly trying to digest that. And I'm sure I'm wrong about anatomy that in some way, shape, or form there, but and I've had like numb toes that day because all my blood's trying to digest things, and I just couldn't get the energy out. So okay, like that was early on in my career. So now I'm thinking, okay, I have to make sure I'm eating something light and not too close to class so that my body can perform at its best.
Yeah, and I would say on a more long-term preventative thing is this is certainly not a requirement, but it's just going to help you long-term. Is if you're working out in some shape or form off the mats, even if it's just functional strength, calisthenics, things like that are all something to add to your jiu-jitsu. I like to have a warm-up at our class that is functional from a jiu-jitsu movement standpoint, but I'm not the type of instructor who we're going to spend the first half hour of class doing calisthenics. I feel like people have come to jiu-jitsu class to learn as much jiu-jitsu as they can. Their physical ability is something that they need to, they need to add strength or flexibility or something like that off the mats in the majority of the time.
Yeah. I think every instructor is going to be different with how they run class, what they want the warm-ups to be, how hard they want them to be. Like my instructor, Alexi, I've gone through years of him evolving as an instructor. And so he's had harder warm-ups over the years for whatever reason that might be, somebody competing or just his old school mentality coming from Brazil in the early days. There's a lot of calisthenics, a lot of push-ups, a lot of squats, a lot of abs, but also he was running jiu-jitsu programs in another gym, not his own. So it wasn't like people could train every day.
Right.
So they would be training every other day if they went to that gym. And I think the mentality could have been, well, if I'm not training tomorrow, I'm leaving here as exhausted as I can possibly get these guys.
True.
And now Alexi runs 2 classes a day, almost every day. So a little bit different if you're coming in more. You don't want to kill them every time.
Right. Yeah, no, because you just won't be able to hold up if you're if you're training that much.
But a good warm-up's always useful. And I think the older you are, the more warm-up you need sometimes.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that completely. It's a must as you get older. And maybe I'm not looking at injuries correctly with the correlation, but generally speaking, higher belts have a few more injuries than lower belts. That could be that certainly could be one from wear and tear on the body from jiu-jitsu, but it certainly could be the fact that in most cases higher belts are a little older, Granted, there's now certainly a wave of kids who are 16-year-old blue belts and 18-year-old brown belts and things like that, but generally speaking, if you look around the average academy in the state of Maine, if you see a brown belt or a black belt, they're not going to be 23 years old.
No, that was one of my checklists in my brain when I started jiu-jitsu is I wanted to be a black belt before 30. And I was by 6 months, but it wouldn't have mattered. Like at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, that's like a kind of a stupid goal because it doesn't matter. Like I would have gotten my black belt whenever I would have gotten it.
Right.
But the younger version of myself loved that idea of it. So when I did, I was like, yes, I got it before 30. But then I'm like, I'm still broken. It doesn't matter. Like my body is still broken.
It's funny. I actually had a goal of getting a blue belt before 30 because I didn't start until I was 28. So same idea, though. There's that, just having goals is important.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about injury prevention kind of in the moment. And we talked about this a little bit last week, but I feel like it warrants talking about some more. And that is ego and tapping. We talked about it with regards to white belts and not tapping simply because you haven't passed out yet versus, not tapping while you're actively trying to do the appropriate escape for the appropriate move. Generally speaking, if you delay tapping to a choke, obviously the penalty in most cases is that you're going to pass out. But there are a lot of submissions that are not purely just a blood choke. There are does crank on your neck, or crush your windpipe, or any combination of those three things.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to tap early. It's called training for a reason. If you're in your gym training with your teammates and training partners, tapping or not tapping to anyone, regardless of belt level, who has a solid submission on you, that's kind of on you to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe by tapping at the appropriate time.
Yeah, I think I changed a lot of how I trained when I changed my mentality about that. And it's not just about maybe this is an anti-ego way of thinking, but instead of thinking like, oh, like I'm shameful or like, damn it, I tapped to that, I usually laugh and go, ha, that was awesome. And then like
Yeah.
my brain is like, don't get into that again. Like, how do you prevent that in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not mad now. I'm mad later on if I keep getting caught with it.
Yep.
So that's where my brain goes now. Like, oh, you tapped me to this thing. I'm like, heck yeah. Let's figure out how you did it. I don't want to get caught in it again.
Yeah. No,
Like,
I
I'm never
agree.
mad in the moment.
And I would say, granted, there's a risk reward to all this, right? But I would say that if you're actively trying to apply the appropriate escape for a particular submission, and you want to take things a little further down the rabbit hole than you have in the past, that's okay. Just understand the consequences if things go south. And I'm not saying that they will, but just be aware of the fact that, if you take a little extra time to try to get out of this choke or this arm lock, you could end up with a sore neck or an elbow that aches for a few weeks or something like that. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to escape these things and you should just tap the moment you see a submission coming on, because that's not accurate either. But you have to
Right.
be smart, and you need to learn the limits of your body's flexibility and things like that so that you can, train long term.
Yeah, it's all about longevity. Like, the way I describe it is like, man, like everybody loves the sport if they're doing it for more than like 6 months. Um, like, you've probably got the bug
Yeah.
of jujitsu. You're probably going to do it for a little while. And at that point, it's not about winning today. It's about winning forever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even mean about winning. It's just like being on the mats forever. Like, the first time you have an injury that prevents you from being on the mats, you're like, oh man, like, it just makes you really want to be on the mats. So you start to think differently about how you train if you did something stupid.
Yep. Now let's assume that something's happened. It's an accident, or maybe you didn't tap in time, and you knew you weren't tapping in time, but you want to just try to get out. Now you've arrived at the point where you're injured, and that injury is going to keep you out for a month or 2 weeks or 6 months. The length of time doesn't matter. I want to talk about the mindset during recovery. What you physically do during recovery, I'm not going to try to pretend to be a physical therapist, doctor, surgeon, whatever, because every injury is different. So the physical side of things, find a specialist, get checked out, listen to the medical advice. What I do want to talk about, though, is the mental side of recovering from an injury.
Yes, because already, if people think skipping a week of jiu-jitsu while they're not injured will make them shrivel away, lose all their technique, become a shell of their former self, then in comparison, getting an injury that will get you off the mats for a month or two feels like an eternity. And so you need to keep your spirits about you, I think, and keep positive. I think that's the most important for me. Like, yes, prevent the injury. Yes, like, get it healed, get the surgery, whatever it needs to happen to prevent it in the future and like recover. But the mental part of it is the biggest part.
So my instructor, Tom, has a statement when he, has somebody who says, "Hey, sorry, I can't make it tonight. I'm injured," and this is talking more towards competitors, but he would always say, "Well, you have eyes, don't you?" and inevitably, like, it's generally not an eye injury; it's something else, right? So
Right.
if you are injured, I will tell you this from firsthand experience, and from, both for myself and for some of my students. If you are injured and you still come to class, maybe not every day like you potentially were before, but if you try to come to class a couple times a week, or however many times that your schedule allows based on how far you are from training and things like that, I promise you will be glad that you did.
Yeah.
You'll be...
I would keep the same schedule if you had a schedule.
If you can, absolutely. Yes. I think there's so many benefits to that from the mental and technical side of things that people feel like once they're injured, they are going to fall off, and they're concerned with how good people are getting while they're gone, right?
Yeah.
If you show up every day, a multitude of things will happen. One, you will see everyone that you normally see every day, and you'll still be right in the mix with the rest of the team. You'll see what they've been working on, and that animosity or that fear of wondering what's going on when I'm not there. What have they learned that they're gonna beat me with when I come back? All of that goes away. When you're there day in and day out. And in all honesty, you can learn a lot from just simply watching the class's technique and the class's live sparring without actually physically taking part.
100%. Totally agree. Also, people don't realize, I think taking a week off resets your brain and your body. So sometimes it is confusing why you're so much better.
Yes.
After taking a week off, but also mentally, I think keeping yourself encouraged while you're off the mats is so hard to do, and that's why a lot of people stop coming after injuries, because they're they get injured, they stop coming, they don't get enthused by the sport anymore because they're not on the mats all the time. That momentum gets lost.
Yep.
And I think as a teammate, I try to check in on my teammates when I hear they get an injury. Try to hang out with them, get a beer, whatever it is, just to keep that camaraderie going, so that that camaraderie. If you want them to stay on the mats, you need that friendship to stay, consistent too.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's a big part of why people train jiu-jitsu. It's not just the actual act or technique of doing jiu-jitsu. Generally speaking, that entire room becomes a close-knit family or group of friends that enjoy hanging out with each other. And for some reason, people feel like when they're injured and they can't train, that they're not, almost like they're not welcome. Like they can't, I can't go to class. I can't train. Well, yeah,
right.
But you can't train, but you can still watch and learn the technique. You can still watch and learn from live sparring and get a third person perspective of what a lot of people do while they're rolling, which you don't get when you're rolling yourself,
Oh, yeah.
Watching somebody from the sides.
Absorbed.
Yeah, absolutely.
People don't realize, when you're not injured, it's just take a time and during class and just tell your instructor, hey, I don't feel like rolling today, and just see how, and just get on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And just see how much you can learn from watching.
Yep. It's a lot. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
The third person perspective versus being in the middle of a roll, it offers a lot of insight and difference when you can see from a third person point of view what someone's doing to someone else. When you're like, oh, that's what they're doing to me. They're putting their foot here, or they're moving their hip in this way. You can see those things when you're watching it from a third person point of view, which is why listening to a coach in competition is so important.
Yeah. Why is Johnny omoplating me every day?
Yes.
It's right. Well, you're learning now that he's setting it up, so you have to turn your body, and then he throws the leg up and gets the omoplata. So now you're like, oh, okay, if I prevent that grip and that turn, now he's not going to do it.
Yes. The next thing I want to talk about with regards to injury is, and I'm going to give you a personal story here about myself. Not mindset with injury is very important, and your expectations and your expectations of what things are going to be like after an injury and things like that. you need to get your mind correct. And however you do that, whether you need help from teammates or a therapist or anything, you need to make sure that your mind is right. And one of the things that I feel like people need to understand is that depending on the injury and how severe it is, your jiu-jitsu game, and I'm using air quotes here, may change based on your injury. Your go-to things, you may lose the ability to do certain things. And I'll give you an example. I obviously we're a Tom DeBlass school, so we spend a lot of time working half guard and variations of half guard. When I was injured, prior to being injured, I played a lot of half butterfly guard. And
I call it butter half.
Yep. I would play on my right hip, and which is the hip a lot of people play guard with anyway, and that was the majority of my game, or at least my A game revolved around that. For anyone who doesn't know, a lot of my students are aware of this. I suffered a pretty catastrophic injury during training. I was coaching and participating in comp training at the same time, trying to get athletes ready, while also having a brand new person there for their first class. 2 of them actually.
Oh wow!
There was a female there for her first class, and then there was a rowdy male, who wanted to come see how strong they were. So I'm hopping into the competition training, which people are going from standing, slap bump, let's go full speed, takedowns, stuff like that. Long story short, I ended up with a broken fibula, a torn meniscus, and a, for lack of a better term, crushed top of my talar dome on my foot, because my tib and fib had separated because only one broke, not both. Apparently, in hindsight, if you break them both, sometimes it's a little easier because your ankle stays intact.
Yeah.
But they separated, and anyway, I needed to have immediate surgery on my fibula. Surgery probably 3 months later, 3 to 5 months later on my meniscus, and then a couple years later when my ankle didn't get any better, I needed to see a specialist and get to the bottom of that. So shout out to Mike Saradarian, Foot and Ankle Associates in Maine and Brunswick, one of the best surgeons in the state for feet. So he is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and he fixed my foot, and it was microfracture surgery. It was great. So, I trained in between each of those injuries too. But one of the first things I noticed right away with the knee portion of the injury is that I didn't have the proper amount of flex in my knee anymore as far as bending it like heel to butt. So what happened when I went back to start playing half butterfly, if anybody compressed that butterfly hook, it was excruciatingly painful in my knee. So I had to, find a different way to train. And in addition to that, obviously I was the instructor, so I'm back on the mats very quickly. I was training but on the mats, training very carefully while I still had a cast on my foot. I was teaching because really I was, at that point our gym was new and I was really the main option for teaching. So what I learned is through the injury, I lost the ability to play a very effective butterfly half guard. But through keeping my top leg that was in a cast out of the way, not playing a knee shield, not playing butterfly half, I developed this super effective deep half guard game. Just because I would, keep my bottom half guard hook and keep my top casted leg out of the way, and then that only leaves you your 2 arms to start messing with deep half guard and things like that. And then that really developed into being the best part of my game now. So when you're injured, if you have a style that you like to play, that might change. Injuries may change the way that you move or the way that you do things. And that's okay. Like you will find a different part of your game will grow, even though that area may not grow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think injuries, and we're not, I think we should say that we don't suggest people to train while they're injured, because that's also not great. But you probably will, given the obsessiveness that you already have for jiu-jitsu. And believe me, I'm using the word appropriately, because once you get into the sport, there's not a lot of casual people who get into it like, oh, I'm going to do it once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they wish they can do it. If they did it once or twice a week, they wish they could do it more.
Yes.
But so you're inevitably going to train injured. That I don't suggest doing it, but again, it keeps your time on the mats, whatever your brain needs for that health. Sure. I don't suggest it, but great.
Right.
Roll with people you trust, all that stuff. But it will, like you said, develop games that are almost, you're compensating for the injury.
Yes.
And so therefore you have almost a better technique at that point. Like, whatever it might be, all of a sudden you have to start passing to your opposite side or sweeping or attacking to your opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
And you might look like an idiot for 2 weeks, but you're so happy to be on the mats, you don't care.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not advocating for training injured, okay? But if you need to be on the mats or want to be on the mats, there's a difference between just moving around and keeping your mind sharp or keeping your mind right and versus live training. And I'm not talking about fully live training. I'm talking about finding a training partner that you thoroughly trust to just say, hey, these are kind of my parameters. This leg is, in an air cast or in a cast or whatever. We're going to play this very specific game where I'm going to play half guard. You need to try to pass to your left and pin me inside controller mount, and then we'll restart again. Those type of things. Not just a free for all of live training. And even that being said, it's not purely just about the person that you find that is good for training with you. You have to know yourself. And if you're the type of person who can't train with absolutely no ego whatsoever and fight back in situations where you might re-injure yourself, you cannot train injured. There's some people who cannot train injured. I don't want to pretend that everyone can.
If you can't roll light, maybe this isn't for you.
Right, exactly. But to circle back again, just purely watching class will go so far to keeping your mind right during injuries, and it will improve your jiu-jitsu when you get back on the mats. You will be better than when you got off the mats. There'll be things that need to that need time to improve on, like your cardio and your timing. That takes a little bit of time to come back, but your mental side, your sharpness with where things go, there won't be a delay in reactions and things like that. You'll see stuff coming. The cardio might need a little time to catch up, but the mind will be right there.
Honestly, when you think about it, if you want to categorize jiu-jitsu in like attributes, like it's a video game, like skill is an attribute, like a histogram with the attribute levels, strength, speed, athleticism, technique, whatever it is, you'll lose from an injury recovery standpoint. You might lose strength and speed, maybe some athleticism, but if you keep the technique and the technical ability higher, like keep going to class, keep learning, keep watching tape, that's the hardest part, I think, to grow in a histogram like that. Mm-hmm. Like when you think about it, like it's so easy to lift, it's so easy to do cardio, just do the work, it's easy. You just got to put the work in.
Right.
But it's hard to learn sometimes. And so if you keep learning, that I think is the most hardest part of that histogram to grow, and the hardest part of jiu-jitsu sometimes, because if you know how you learn, say you're a purple belt, you get injured, and you already know how you learn jiu-jitsu, you can keep that going. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit harder at white and blue belt maybe, because you're not sure how you learn in the sport yet. You may be trying to figure that out still. Like if you're a visual learner, do you need a checklist? Do you need to do something with somebody? Like whatever that may be. Like you start to know how you learn, and then taking that, because if you know how you learn, it's like a cheat code.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, like I know how to absorb a technique in no time.
Yep.
And That's
some people can absorb stuff and remember it and recall it months later, no problem.
yep.
I'm lucky enough to be one of those types of people where I can
Hmm.
see something, and then 2 days later come into class and be like, hey, can I try this? I saw this the other day and I've been meaning to try it out. And for some reason I can recall that sort of stuff, which is,
Yeah.
it's like a mini superpower, to just be able to pull stuff off out of my head that I saw, but
I
not
I
everybody is
agree.
blessed with that.
It's there's certain superpowers in life you didn't know was a superpower until you're later on an adult. Like, I would categorize that with like the ability to sleep anywhere.
Yep.
Is
I
like
don't have that
like
one.
I didn't know that was a superpower until my wife was like, I have the hardest time sleeping. And I go, if I go vertical, you lost me. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I can sleep on a plane. Like, as a kid, if I got silent, I'm like, where did I fall asleep? On the stairs? I don't know. Like, it was just, and I didn't know that was a superpower until later on in life when I met people with crippling anxiety and they're like, I have the hardest time falling asleep. And I go,
Hmm.
huh, weird. Um,
Yeah,
so
I
it's the same
have
categorization.
people I used to work with. One of the guys had insomnia, and I was
Wow.
man, like I can't wrap my head around how that works. How can you be completely exhausted and not be able to fall asleep? I guess
Yeah.
I fill my days with so much that when I do decide, okay, it's time to go to bed, I crash and I'm out. But
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to just sleep
I
in
used to work
in spots,
overnights. I used to work overnights in my 20s, having 3 or 4 jobs. And it was like a superpower because I would be like, oh, I have 2 hours between this job and this job. All right, I just go sleep. Like,
That
no
sounds
problem.
awesome.
And it was great. And I'd wake up, I'd be supercharged. I'd close Hannaford Seafood Department, boom, then do an overnight shift stocking, and then go home, sleep for 3 hours, do the next thing. Like, I'd have no problem. Now I would wreck myself. Like that kind of sleep deprivation wouldn't work with my 35-year-old self, but the ability to sleep anywhere was a superpower then
Mm.
that I didn't realize. But anyway, sorry, back to jujitsu.
No, it's good.
Um,
Another injury prevention tip: get sleep.
yes, get sleep. Good segue there. Great.
Not on the mats though. Tap. We don't
Yes,
want anybody sleeping on the mats, although that does happen.
it does, unfortunately. And to sometimes through no fault of your own. Like sometimes you wanted to tap, and the choke was just so deep, so quick that you didn't have time.
Mm, yeah.
So, and believe me, like unless your training partner is a dick, like which maybe he is, she is, but at the end of the day, they don't want to tap you out that way. They don't want you to pass out,
Yeah.
and they'll probably feel bad making you pass out. So, like it wasn't intentional if it happens.
I don't
Um,
remember a time when I fully passed out. I have been like so far down the rabbit hole on the edge many times, but I don't
mm,
remember a time that I actually passed out. The closest I've ever been to passing out, um, was actually from my wife being my training partner, and we were at a seminar, and they were teaching the rodeo choke, and
oh,
I almost went out, and I remember like thinking, why is the room getting quiet? And then
yes.
I tapped, and then I went to pick my head up, and I was like, oh no, I almost went out. I was just super wobbly, and I'm like, yep, okay. You had the choke. I should not have, I think she started to put the choke on, and I tried to explain to her how to make an adjustment to make it tighter. Well, it was already more than tight enough, clearly, because
Yeah.
I was about to pass out.
I think I did pass out when I was a blue belt, and I just don't like. I remember there was a time where I passed out once, and 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 Alexi does a really good job with making you not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Like he'll just be sitting on, standing on above you, and be like, "Wakey, wakey, how was your dreams?"
That's
Because
awesome.
he knows like everybody stay away. Everybody wakes up from being passed out a little differently. So he keeps his distance, but he also makes it super positive, so you're not waking up in a tizzy and a panic. He kind of calms you down. And then you're like, what happened? He goes, what do you think happened? And you're like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess for the most part, you can't really fault someone for like, yes, you could tap sooner and not pass out, but it's not always that cut and dry. There are sometimes
yeah,
situations where maybe it was a rolling choke of some sort and your hand was pinned under yourself and you needed to pull it out to tap and then it was too late or who knows. So, yeah,
yeah,
you can't really make fun of someone for passing out, but at the
no.
same time,
And they're doing their job.
it's one of those things that you laugh about after, you know.
Oh yeah, I laugh. Yeah, we had I think he must be 80, if not in his late 70s. He's one of our black belts in our gym, and our purple belt put him out. And I don't know what choke. I wasn't there, but oh no, I was in the room. I don't know what choke, and he woke up pretty quickly. And this guy has a lot of background in other martial arts before he did jujitsu, so he's a tough guy, old school Mainer, tough guy. And he was rolling 10 minutes later, and I'm like, dang, like I have newfound respect for that dude. Like
Yeah.
he got put out, he's almost 80, he didn't care, he's rolling again. And I'm like, and no fault of the purple belt either. Like,
No.
and if you're listening, if you're from my gym and you're listening, you probably know exactly who these two people are. But like, I hate calling people out by names, but like, there's no fault of him whatsoever. He's just doing his job right.
Yeah, no,
And
exactly.
the other person wasn't mad whatsoever, and in fact was like they're both laughing about it for a long time.
That's awesome. And that stuff happens, you know.
Yeah.
That's why you end up with a close-knit team in a lot of cases, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's especially why you gotta have the homies from the mats that you hang out outside of the mats.
Mm.
It really does help that dynamic.
Yeah, I agree.
I have gotten injured a few times. I've injured. So I used to be a distance runner. So I feel like I just have this. Um, it's just like my ankles, my back, and my knees feel like they've been worn out from distance running. Like they've been like shaved off almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're never going to be 100% ever again. And because of that, I do a lot of leg lifting to like strengthen, like the abductor machines, hamstrings, quads, everything
Nice.
that like strengthen around things.
Mm-hmm.
I try to lift every week, if not twice a week, just to really prevent injuries on the mats. Because I do a lot of half guard myself, so I'm moving my knees and putting a lot of pressure on that. So I want that stability and that scaffolding to be better.
Mm.
But yeah, I partially tore both my LCLs separately in jiu-jitsu. Both one time I went to a PT, they said it was partially torn. They just said, here's the, like you can get surgery, but it's LCL. So luckily it's the only CL from what I'm told. Again, I'm not a medical professional that has blood flow once you partially tear it. So you can still potentially recover a lot of it.
Yes.
Any other CLs that you tear or partially tear may not be able to be recovered on their own because of the lack of blood flow to them now.
Gotcha.
But luckily, an LCL is that twisting sort of motion in the outside ligament in the knee. So, things that they bear a lot of pressure almost all the time when you're doing the sport. And so, I did a lot of, basically he just was like, here's all the preventative movements, do these for a couple months, then go back light. And I go, yep. And every day just did those movements, strengthened my legs again, went back light, was fine. Now I play butterfly guard a little differently to protect my knees. And I don't try to do butterfly on bigger people anymore, but yeah. And then there's always those injuries that are like the forever injuries. And I'm saying that in quotes. Like if you pull your groin or maybe jam your finger or like stub your toe, like it's those phantom injuries that like could come back pretty easily if you just step the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a guy in our academy, Matt, who he's wrestled for a long time, and he ended up with like his big toe was injured, and even once it heals up, the moment he goes for a shot that's not quite perfect, off that toe, it's like 50% re-injured again type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's that's the other thing I would say when it comes to returning from injuries is like your game, you may need to adapt your game semi-permanently Even if it's an initial drawback, you'll still reap long-term rewards by mixing things up. And maybe down the road you can mix your old game back in as, as things really get in the rearview mirror as far as injuries go. But injuries are part of life. It doesn't matter if it's jiu-jitsu or skiing or mountain biking, whatever, twist your ankle hiking up a mountain. Like that's part of life. If you're going to be active, you are going to suffer, some injuries, and how you deal with them is more important than, you can't prevent them all.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the overall thing to take away from this podcast is it's not about the injury. It's about how you come back from an injury and how you face it, basically, and how you adjust your body and your lifestyle during the recovery.
Yes. I mean, to sum up everything that we've talked about, I would say it's important for prevention to stretch and to warm up properly and things like that. Understand that tapping early will help injury prevention, but it will not eliminate it, because there's two moving bodies that, accidents are going to happen. How you deal with the injury after it happens from the mental side of things, by showing up to class even when you don't feel like it, and learning and asking questions and things like that. Yes, I understand it's hard for some people to show up to class and not be on the mats, but it still is going to pay dividends even if you can't stay on the mats. Even if you're just watching, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
All right, sir, I'm going to wrap this up with you today. I appreciate it. At the moment that this podcast is going to be released, we are 2 days out from the Flow Sub Only Open 7. Ben is going to be there shooting photo and video. So if you come across him, make sure you say hello. As always, you can approach me anytime with questions or concerns or statements. If you do listen to the podcast and you hear this, it would go a long way to either of us if you stop by during the event and say, hey, listen to the podcast, keep doing what you're doing. Anything positive, we certainly appreciate that. Ben, remind everybody where they can follow you.
I am Active Beer Geek on every platform you can probably think of, unless there's a new platform that my younger siblings have somehow discovered that I don't know about yet. So yeah, all the major platforms, I am Active Beer Geek.
Awesome. And as usual, you can find me at prof_Hayden BJJ on Instagram. You can follow Flow Sub Only, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have 125 plus matches on there and more to come from this upcoming event. We're going to have some good ones here. We have a 16 men so far in the absolute division, so that promises to be awesome.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be really good. There's still about 3 days left to sign up. So at this point, other than that, we'll see you guys in a few days.
We'll see you soon.